All right, let's see if we can beat our record today. I think the most I've seen has been 5 Fireflies note takers in these calls. Let's see if we can beat that today. All right, let's see. Anybody recognize any names we know? Let's take a look. If you're new, jump in the chat and let me know. We'll always love to see new people here. Fantastic stuff. We're gonna give it just another 30 seconds or so, and then I'm gonna get right into it. Okay. Looks like we just got 3 note takers today. Unless there's some hiding under the radar somewhere. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get this kicked off here. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us. I know it's been a while. This is the Media Buyer webinar. My name is Brian. I'm your host every week. We were off last week for Memorial Day, but we are back mostly talking about Memorial Day performance data and numbers like that. With me today, I've got Ryan, great friend of the brand. He's our in-house genius on everything media buying strategy, customer success. You all know him, you all love him, and he's here with us today. We're going to go ahead and get right into this thing. So I'm going to speed through the data. This is what we're going to do. Same week, this week, of every week, we're going to speed through the data, take a look at what's going on across hundreds and hundreds of ad accounts, talk a little bit about the trends that we see. And then we're going to spend the second half of this section digging into specifically discounting, sales periods, mostly around Memorial Day, but we're in this chunk of time where there's kind of like 4 tentpole holidays in a row here, from Mother's Day to Memorial Day, to everything up to July 4th, right? And so we're going to talk about what that kind of means for your brand, how you should approach those. I know we all tend to want to run discounts all the time, but it's good to be mindful. So we're going to talk about that in the context of what we saw in our performance data. So as you can see, budget share didn't really change too much. Big mover for me is TikTok, but we've been seeing lots of weird reactions based off of the news of TikTok being banned, but also being a great place for view-through performance and organic growth. But the first number in these decimal points really hasn't changed. Meta's back up to about 67, Google's at 23. This is what we've come to expect, right? We're not seeing too many major dramatic shifts here for probably years. If we were to look back years, you probably wouldn't see too much shift, but it always intrigues me when I see some of the emerging platforms moving up and trying to get a little bit more dominance in the space as far as budget share. Mark, chat's working, man. I'm seeing you there. You can ask me Q&A that way. Let's see. And yeah, you can just send to everyone instead of just hosts and panelists. All right, straight into auction metrics. So you can clearly see off the greens and reds, Memorial Day performance is going on here, right? So your auction metrics are more expensive almost across the board for most channels. It definitely is for Meta. You can see cost per clicks are up. Click-through rates are down on most platforms, and CPMs are up. Everyone is spending, trying to cram their Memorial Day sales and trying to hit sales targets, revenue targets. You could see that, and we'll talk about this, some brands will actually save their budget in preparation for Memorial Day, run this during the week prior. So that's what you're seeing here. On the other side, you could see that discounts are in full effect. Whenever we turn on discounts, you could see that conversion goes through the roof. We could see that all over the place, right? Customer acquisition costs are down, ROAS is up, conversion rate is up across many of the platforms, because you're thrown a 25 to, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I saw a 75% off discount. And I'm like, are you even breaking even at that point? Like what's, are we just moving warehouse inventory? Like what's going on? I'm like, or are you charging way too much of that thing in the first place? Which Oh boy, I could fill an hour with that, but we're going to get right to it. Google category didn't change too much. Shopping finally broke 10%. I think that fully makes sense. They're making a lot of investments there to make shopping really uh, uh, the strongest part of Google, and that doesn't really surprise me. By industry, oh, how many weeks of like horrible red arrows have we had in preparation for this? I am so happy. I checked these numbers so many times. I'm like, there's no way that accessories went up 32%. Like, there's no way. I checked this so many times. I'll tell you what it is. It's sunscreen, skincare, hats, boogie boards, you name it, all fall under accessories. That all went through the roof. Memorial Day is about, it's like the first big summer day outside, right? So like everyone's jumping in on top of it. What do I need for that, right? And when I go in and I look at the specific brands that are underlying this, I see things like backyard umbrellas, beach umbrellas, tarps and awnings for your backyard, which is where you're seeing the Lift and Home goods. You're seeing things like sunscreen or after sun care or how the searches like how to keep your makeup from smearing in the hot summer sun, right? Which is lifting beauty up. Apparel and fashion, people are like, if you're like this guy, you're like, oh wait, I need a pair of swim trunks for this year because I've either lost or don't fit in last year's, right? So that then apparel and fashion's through the roof, right? So even though we're looking at these auction metrics and like generally auction performance is down, most brands did have a good week of sales. So I want to go ahead and get into this. I'm going to stop the screen share so we can see each other here better, Ryan. With me today, I have Ryan. We're going to talk discounts because Memorial Day is kind of the big one. Mother's Day is around and people always do it, but usually Mother's Day, it's, food and restaurants kind of sales and people are focused on that. But Memorial Day is like the kickoff of summer. So a lot of people are jumping on this and they're being like, we need a sale in there. We need a sale in there. But it's also like the second in kind of a run of discounts that happen through this period where people aren't necessarily chasing big purchasing tent poles. They're more in like a need state, like summers come around and stuff like that, right? Like nobody's being like, I'm going to buy something on the 4th of July. They're usually like, I need something specifically, right? So through this period of time, a lot of people who are running ads are going to be experiencing this thing where, they're going to be saving spend or doing top of funnel spend in certain places in order to justify discounts later. I got a couple questions, and Ryan and I are going to get through this. And we've thought a lot about this. You've worked with tons of brands. I think the big fundamental question, Ryan, is for all the people on here who are thinking about running ads and running discounts on a holiday season, how does a brand decide, yeah, I want to run a discount or not? Like, in your opinion, what's the best way to approach this?
For sure. There's a lot that goes into it, right? And every brand is very much different. But there's a couple things always on my mind is you can kind of cannibalize your audience, right? And so one of the things I use in my account Northbeam for is like every day I'm looking at sales and how much of any given day is revenue coming from new customers versus coming from returning customers, right? And some brands, it's real healthy. It's like 65% new customers, 35 returning customers, doing a great job, right? But it's always on my mind as it relates to offers and discounts and sale periods that what you're doing is you're bringing demand forward, right? And so you kind of want to space out strong offers, strong discount. You don't want to have, hitting the same person with messaging 5 times in a 3-week stretch of, hey, this is the biggest sale ever, right? Like you bring that demand forward and that's your at bat, right? And so for me, I want to be very much creative with my offers and I want to kind of plan the quarter out strategically, right? And so some of the data you just showed, right? There's a couple interesting pieces. A lot of folks had a good time, right? A lot of folks saw success with discounting and with offers. But if you're a brand who's historically hasn't run offers during this period and the auction costs are going up and you're going to sit out, I kind of advise like, hey, let's cool back, right? Like it's going to be more competitive. And if everybody, all your competitors are running ads at the top of the feed with discount messaging and you're the lone brand kind of holding steady, I'd save my cash a little bit. What I would do strategically is plan a product drop or go stronger in the next period, right? There's what I love about Memorial Day is it is like going into a new season, right? And there is buying sentiment around that new season, the turn of the weather. As I get older, that holiday just like skies up the top tier list. But I always have the how much demand am I bringing forward? Are these offers structured strategically? And if I'm saying that, okay, on Memorial Day, or let's say on Mother's Day, you did 30% off, right? And then 2 weeks later, it's Memorial Day, and you do 30% off again, right? That's going to be less effective, right? And so I kind of think Memorial Day, very effective for brands, but if you just went really hard at Mother's Day, you probably didn't see as much success, right? And Mother's Day, great for kind of buying. It does seem like more of a gift buying period. If you're in the right vertical, in the right space, folks are buying for it. And so I always like a creative offer there. Maybe it's a product, maybe it's 20% off, not kind of your strongest offer, if you will. Memorial Day comes, if it makes sense for your brand, I like a strong offer there, right? Father's Day, on the other hand, that is one, through my experience, and I've ran a handful of like male focused brands, Father's Day doesn't get quite as much love, right? So what I would not do is, if you're going hard at Memorial Day and you went decently hard at Mother's Day and you're looking at July 4th, I would not really structure a crazy aggressive offer for Father's Day, right? I wouldn't deploy a bunch of creative resources. I would do some, but instead I kind of speak with my financial team. I do a little bit of qualitative research and quantitative research about what products kind of lean more male focused, and explore some bundling, right? And that may be a way where, if you're doing some product bundling for something like Father's Day, maybe product A plus product B plus product C, you buy the Father's Day bundle, right? And you get 25% off that. It's not necessarily a store wide, but you're also not sitting on the sidelines. You got something strong, right? And maybe you pair that with a free shipping threshold that's $5 more, so you can crank up that AOV a little bit. But I just very much want to try and capture what's in the market, but not necessarily overkill with the biggest sale ever every single day, right? So that's always on my mind. But a big piece of offer construction is meeting with the finance team and understanding your COGS and your margin, right? Simply put, if in my eyes, there's a lot of ways to look at it, but I know pretty quick if I have a good offer or not, because if I discounted something by 20% and I don't see my CAC drop in relation to that, or my ROAS climb up, and let's say my ROAS only climbs by 10%, right? Not a very effective offer. And simply put, the offer I'm running, you should almost get bonus points in the market. If it's a good offer, if it's well positioned, if it's what your folks want and it's compelling, you should see a bigger lift on your ROAS or your CAC compared to the additional costs that you're eating, or the lower ACoS target that you now need to go after. So I start with a place of, okay, what's inventory look like? What's our cost look like? Ideally, the home run scenario is you have a best-selling product that has great margin, and maybe it's got a bunch of cents. You pick 1 or 2 cents, buy 2, get 1 free, something like that, and really attack it from a strong margin perspective. So that way, when you do run into July 4th, you can kind of do that up to 40% store wide, and you didn't hit your audience with back to back strong offers. You kind of got to give them a little bit of a breather, so that your click-through rate on your emails continues to be high. A lot in there, but guide me to the next cue there, Bri.
No, I mean, the what's underlying this is the fact that discounts are not, I don't know. I even see big brands fall for this, right? Where discounts are not something that is you mandatorily have to do it. It's not.
Memorial Day is here. We need to run some sort of discount, like, because everyone does that, right? Like, I fully think that, and this, to your point, it needs to fill a strategy first. And that's what I really like about, you were like, oh, let's check with the finance team. Let's check the inventory first before we ever even commit to something like this. Like, that's like big brand thinking that, like, even I think smaller e-commerce stores could really stand to understand and focus on. I worked with this men's brand, and Father's Day was their biggest day of the year. And the understanding was like, why is Father's Day so big, right? And for a long time, it was like, oh, because like guys are buying. And it was like, no, guys are not buying. Like it's the bundles that ship so well because they're gifts, right? And that informs, like once we started running surveys and talking to and understanding, like, oh, wait, our customers, this customer cohort is all gifters. That totally redefines how we speak to that cohort for the rest of their customer existence. And so like it just comes down to the strategy. It's like what are you doing with your strategy? What purpose does it serve? Like I don't like this customers are expecting discounts like mindset, because like they're reacting to it as a conversion tactic, but it's not necessarily the right thing for your business, nor is it even like necessary. So let's say that you are going to run a discount, right? You say, 4th of July is huge for us. You and me finally start, a motorized surfboard startup, and we're like 4th of July is like perfect for us, right? What metrics are you tracking to show, yes, this discount is working? Because I think some people would reduce it and be like, oh, how are we doing on revenue? If we're doing in revenue, that's great. Or, oh, if we're going to take 20% off, like I want to see 20% more sales, right? Something really reductive like that. What's a smart way of understanding, okay, this discount worked for this cohort?
For sure. So I am a bit of a fan of like, you have a threshold. If you're reducing your ACoS, how much you need by 20%, how much you're looking to make, how much your profit. If you're playing with the margin factor, you should look to see at bare minimum, like the ROAS climb to make up that delta. If you're not very effective. I'm a huge fan post-mortem, doing it at the end of every quarter, going into my LTV table data, sorting by discounts, and looking to see over a 2-month stretch, how many of these customers actually became repeat customers, right? Mm-hmm. What was the value of these customers over time, right? Not just in a, hey, did my ROAS go up by the difference the same day I spent the dollars? Okay, it did. I'm going to be aggressive and scale. But if those folks are very much just offer receptive, and let's say at a baseline, an average customer after 2 months is worth an additional $20 to the brand, right? If folks who come in under this discount are only worth an additional $5 to the brand, well then shoot, you don't need to make up just the margin delta. You actually need to make up that additional $15 there too. And maybe next year I'd be looking at that and go, okay, this offer drove more revenue for us, but it didn't actually create the healthiest customer cohorts for us. Mm-hmm. So that's something that maybe not day to day, I'm in the midst of the sale, let me go change it up, right? But very much post-mortem at the end of every quarter, I like to review what were all the sale periods we did at a 2-month window, or if you're a longer tail brand, 3 months or 6 months, whatever's appropriate, but 2 months is a nice little data point. Are we actually driving in the right types of customers for us? Or are they simply just bargain shopping, and we had an up to 70% on messaging and we got them hook, line, and sinker? And not like those are bad, you got to make your numbers, but not the ideal state. And if I ran into that, I'd go, okay, this year we want to hit those same numbers, but we want to make these customers happy with it, right? Do we send something in with it? Do we try a different offer? Do we, there's elements you can look at, but that LTV table piece in a postmortem is something I pay a lot of attention to.
You're like borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, right? Like, you might succeed in, oh man, look at this great revenue month we had, or look at all the inventory we moved. Our conversion numbers are through the roof. Our conversion rate is really, really high. But like at the end of the day, these lower value customers, if you're somebody who relies on subscription, on repeat purchases, like to really see the LTV, like, yeah, if you're on this call, I hope you're profitable on first purchase. But if you're not, then you definitely need that LTV, right? Or if you have not profitability, but like the major chunk of your revenue coming from repeat customers, here's what I have seen. Never in all of the years that I have been doing this has a customer that has come in on a discount outperformed LTV wise someone who came in without one. Like every brand I've ever looked at, ever, I'm like, well, show me customers that their first purchase had a discount. The deeper that discount is, the lower their LTV all time, like almost every brand I've looked at. So yeah, you're getting that short term, like you're saying, but if you might be seriously shackling the performance of every upsell, retention campaign, email campaign you try and run from that point forward, because like you didn't pull in customers who are authentic to the brand. You pulled in people who were like, I sort of know about that and it's 40% off, so I'm going to grab it. It's funny how like all these things work together. And when we come up to holidays, there's such a crunch as performance marketers for us to like, we got to do this sale. We got to get this sale done. We got to pull the same ads down that are working for us, pull their champion ads and like slap the discount code on them and like get them back up there. There's a lot of pressure for that. And especially on smaller teams or tighter teams or teams that have like their own sort of creative flow going, I feel like sometimes that can disrupt your like great performance that you already have. And it's like, I think before you lift a finger, to your point, before you lift a finger doing any sort of creative ad strategy for your discounted holiday moments, I would be like, let's run the numbers first and set some real benchmarks for like what we need to see in order for this to be valuable. And some of the most exciting brands I see have literally never discounted. Also, some of the most successful brands in the world run exclusively on discounts. So it's kind of like case by case. You sent me a video.
Yeah.
You sent me a Loom video earlier about how to use Northbeam to like to actually track the performance of what's happening in your sales campaigns. I'm going to send that video to everybody, first of all, but so that because then you don't have to like sit down and write this down and like go over it. But in Northbeam, what metrics are you looking at when it comes to, I need to measure that this campaign is working? How can you actually tell that it's working? What do you like to look at when you're evaluating holiday performance?
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple pieces. There's I'm in the middle of the sale, and then there's like the post-sale hangover or lull piece. So I'll start with the former, right? So in my experience, a lot of sales, Black Friday, Cyber Monday included, it'll often start with the first day is awesome, and then the next day a little bit of a lull, maybe Sunday a little bit of a lull, and then the final day, let's call it Monday, scarcity push and really effective. For a long time, I remember a few years back trying to dig into like what is going on here, or how much should I actually be spending, what's causing this low. We at Northbeam do a good job to like help paint the picture and what is actually going on, right? So if I'm trying to understand, let's say I started on May 26th for my Memorial Day sale, and I had a good day, right? And I'll actually share my screen real quick. Let's say I had a good day. This is just an anonymous brand that I have pulled up here. Let's say we're looking at the 26th, and let's say it's the day after. Let's say it's the morning of the 27th. You're the buyer. We just had a good day. Our goal was a 4.5. We were at a 4.8. Some brands would see this 4.8 shooting for a 4.5, and they may get the directive, hey, we should crank it. We should scale. Like let's really go for it. And there's a couple things I'm looking at to go out and validate, right? So the first thing I'm looking at is right here on cash. I'm hovering over, and what I want to see is how much of all the revenue that we made that day came from touch points collected or bought the first day of our sale, right? And just showing a visualization here of this anonymous brand, but they had roughly 45%, 184, this section in blue, of the total 405 come from touch points that occurred that day, right? So the reality is the first day of a sale, you're bringing a bunch of demand forward. You are all these touch points you've been marketing against and getting people into your ecosystem. We can visualize and see that, okay, a lot of the revenue, roughly 55% this brand, came from previous touch points. And what that tells me is I'm going to see some efficacy drop because I'm not going to expect my emails to be as effective the next day, right? I'm not going to have the same 200 grand or so here supporting my one-day efforts to drive me to a total 4.8x MER on tap, right? So one piece I'm looking at is, and we're a few days out now, right? But if we were looking on the morning after, on accrual, we would just see this entire blue section here. We would go, okay, roughly 45% of all my revenue came from same day efforts. Maybe that's a little bit less than I hoped for, right? I would feel confident that I could drive another 184K in sales, but I'm not going to have the support of the remaining 200 there. And what I would look at on accrual sense is just go on down here and say, okay, of my 1 day efforts, what was my ROAS on an accrual sense? So this brand here, I know they like to shoot for a 2.5 on a 1 day. They had a 2.18. So they were actually a little bit under their 1 day goals. They hit their goals for cash revenue, but when they're underneath their same day goals a little bit, it tells me that following Saturday or the 27th here, I'm actually not going to go scale up my ads. I'm not just going to go into every campaign and crank it by 20%, because some of the efficacy was coming from folks already in my ecosystem, right? What I would do is I'd lean right into the winners. Anything that was like right at the threshold, I'd pull off. I may have a 10, 20% less spend in that first day, but what I learned is, okay, where are my effective pockets, right? Another thing I would look at in this sense is this new versus returning transactions, right? And so for this brand here, like 65% of their total transactions coming from new folks. That's what I like to see. That's what's typical for them, even with support of all the email, pretty healthy. If I came in here and I saw the inverse, and I saw that 65% of my transactions were from returning customers, I don't really care what performance number. It could have shown me a 6 up here, and I would have been pulling back my spend a little bit, because I know I'm not going to have I'm not going to drive that many returning transactions in. I'm not actually driving in all the new customers that I want. And so what I want to see is hitting my goals. Ideally, the more, the better from 1 day efforts, and a healthy mix of new versus returning users here. And if I don't see those things, I'm not scaling my spends the next day. I'm pulling back a little bit, right? And I may scale them back up for that last day of scarcity. But these are just a couple things I'm looking at to kind of give me a sense of like, is it my ads driving all the effort? Is it my email driving all the effort? Was this 405K all from brand new folks? If so, let's scale to the moon, right? But if not, let's manage the budget accordingly. So just a couple things that I very much pay attention to anytime it's the first day of a sale.
Man, I'm gonna have to put together like a serious white paper between you and me talking on this stuff. We got to put something together, so people have this guide like available for them permanently. Yep. I'm already like, I have to put this together now because we have so much of this, and Northbeam is just perfect for it. That brings us to a wrap. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on today, short notice, and dropping just knowledge bombs, man. Y'all, everyone in the audience, if you're on Northbeam, go to your data reviews. This is the mastermind behind it. He's helping us out. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody, I will see you again next week here, same time. Next week, we have a special guest. So I'll announce right around midweek once we have her confirmed. Pretty excited about that. But thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you all next week. Cheers. Thank you, Brian. Thank you.